I just realized something very important. You don't want to miss this. You got to hit record before you start talking. I just talked for 5 minutes and realized that I wasn't recording. Welcome to another week. It's starting off rather chilly. It was only 14 degrees Fahrenheit when I woke up, and I sleep without heat. My apartment is not heated on purpose. I like to be nice and chilly and snuggled up when I get into bed. It helps me sleep. It's something that I've learned about my insomnia. A cold room helps me sleep better. Anyway, I'm in the studio, which is also quite cold. I got a little heater blowing on my feet, but that also keeps me alert and attentive. If I get too warm, I get uncomfortable. So I like my spaces chilly because that helps me to do the heavy lifting of the process that I'm engaged in. At present, that process is going through thousands of audio files that I have recorded, transcribing them, cleaning up the text, and making sense out of them, and then putting them into a database that I can search and create content from for my books. And one of the things that keeps popping into my head is, I wish I had done this sooner, or I wish I had hired someone to do this, or I wish there was an AI that could have done this part of the work for me. And these types of thoughts are not helpful. They're automatic. I don't control them. I'm not consciously choosing to have them. They're being fed to me by my default mode network. But when they do occur, I have to be really careful not to think about outcomes, not to think about results, because it'll bury me. When I look at how many thousands of these files need to be transcribed, it is so overwhelming when I see their entirety that I want to just get up, run, and eat. And when I say run, I don't mean physically run. I just mean run away from the computer and eat, because that's my coping mechanism. So rather than thinking about a book in this moment, rather than having a clear concept of what it is that I'm actually doing, on days like this where I'm confronted by this type of process, I simply have to put my nose down and do the work. Put my fingers to keyboard or to mouse, put my eyes towards screen, and one by one take the steps necessary to move the process forward, not worrying about the result. Someone asked me earlier which book I'm working on at the moment, and my answer was that I'm not working on a book. I'm working through a process, because right now I'm pretty scattered. I've got a lot of projects at home that are demanding my time and attention. I've got my clients, I've got my training, I've got this transcription process that I'm engaged in, plus many other things. So when I'm feeling pulled apart by lots of demands and lots of big stories, I've got to just put myself even deeper into the process. I've got to atomize the process like I'm doing today. Fingers on keyboard, fingers on mouse pad, eyes to screen. That's it. Now, when my schedule eases up a bit, when the projects at home get completed, or at least they're off my plate until spring, then I will have the mental bandwidth to conceptualize the book. But that's probably a month away. So right now it's just process, process, process. And when I get out of this period of being scattered, I will have a ton of content that I can pull from. But if I sit here and try to think about book, if I try to think big, if I try to think generally, I'll sit and do nothing. And it'll be like the trope of the wannabe novelist sitting at the typewriter, typing out a few words, pulling out the paper, crumpling it up, and throwing it in the garbage bin, because they're thinking big. They're not engaged in the process. So right now, for me, it's process all the way. All right, here we go. I had to cut my roller skis short because it's snowing and the roads are slippery. Waking up to a wee bit of snow. It's getting to be that time of year where you've got to factor in that you might need to shovel for 45 minutes to an hour just to leave the house. Always catches you by surprise at the beginning, but soon. Ooh, little squirrel feet. Prospect Mountain, where I ski, has a trail cam, so I'm checking it out to see what the snow looks like up there. Not good enough yet. I am just about to put my hand on the door handle and open the door so I can go roller skiing. This was not my first choice because the roads are a bit wet and slippery from the snow. But my original intention, which was to go running on Bald Mountain, I realized that it's hunting season, the beginning of hunting season, more importantly. And there's a lot of people out there in the woods, and I figured the risk of being in the woods running is probably greater than the risk of me on these roads roller skiing, so I'm going to roller ski instead. And that's often how I make decisions. I weigh the cost, and sometimes it's as simple as, do I turn right or left? Which one feels more expensive? Which one feels like it involves more effort? Which one has more of a repulsive force? Maybe it's left, then I go right. So I tend to get bumped around that way. And it doesn't matter what happens, I'll get bumped into something. There's always an option. It's pretty rare that I can't find an option. So here we go. I'm about to head north to the Vermont Orthopedic Clinic to go over the results of the MRI on my left ankle, which I had done in the spring. And I finally got an appointment. Anyway, I'm going to go up there and see if I have a future in running or not. My hunch in looking at the scans myself is that there's some arthritic conditions going on in there, in addition to the avulsion fractures, which I think are pretty well healed, but there's just a lot of scar tissue on the ligaments and bone. I just got a very large needle injection of corticosteroids into my ankle. The doctor wants to see if it's the connective tissue that's the problem or if it's deep in the joint. She suspects it's deep in the joint, so she went right into the middle of my ankle with the injection. And gonna wait a few weeks for that to take effect. And she says, then get back into running and let's see if this joint delivery of corticosteroids makes it better. Then we know where the problem is. But she suspects it's not all of the avulsion fractures. But she's also concerned about the big bone spur in my Achilles tendon, but that doesn't hurt me anymore. So, all right, in a couple weeks, I'm going to be running. Making a quick stop in Manchester, Vermont on my way home from the appointment, and started listening to a new book, Writing for Busy Readers, because we're all so overwhelmed with the amount of content that comes into our lives now. We don't really have the same attentional span when we read things, so this is a book about making sure that you're considering and being respectful of the amount of time that your reader has to read what you write. But I'm 15 minutes into this book, and so far, they're wasting my time. They're not telling me anything of note. They're telling me why they wrote the book. I don't care why you wrote the book. Tell me how to write for a busy reader. I'm a busy reader listening to this book. Don't waste my time. And they're telling me how most writers waste people's time. Yeah, I don't need to hear that. Tell me how not to do that. So I'm a little confused so far. I think this is a terrible introduction considering the content, or at least what I assume the content of the book will be. I don't know. So far, I'm not convinced. I was feeling a little bit claustrophobic here in the studio because my schedule is pretty tight. Got myself dressed for roller skiing. Now I'm going to head off to North Bennington, get a quick ski in, and then I'm meeting a client and her mom for lunch. Then some more roller skiing, and then back here to the studio to do some more work. And then I got to go home to work on the digging project. Having some avocado toast in Italy. Oh, look at that mama belly. Oh, mama. Sweet mama. Oh, good mama. Good morning. It is a rare, sunny November day. I haven't seen the sun in a while. Sitting here in the educational bubble, staying warm for a bit, listening to Writing for Busy Readers. And they're talking about word usage, and they mention the Mark Twain quote, "Don't use a $5 word if a 50-cent word will do." So they give all these examples of using erudite or knowledgeable, you should use knowledgeable. Using hinder or slow, you should use slow. And it's interesting. So many people try to sound intelligent with their sentence construction, and they just end up confusing people. And maybe they sound intelligent, but what is the goal? To sound intelligent or to have somebody actually understand and enjoy your message? So this book is about helping people to create a message that is more understandable. Anyway, I'm going to head upstairs, work for a few hours, and then I've got to go home and put some more beams in. It's going to warm up into the 40s today, so I've got to make some big progress. It's been too cold the last few days. Today I put a 4x6 cross beam in, and building a pylon, I need to jack up the beam so I can have that fit perfectly. It's got to be raised a few inches so there'll be room for one more block. But making progress. Came back to the studio after my foundation project, did a little editing, and now I'm going to head out for a roller ski. I'm going to try to see if I can get a bunch of hours in today, because tomorrow morning I have oral surgery. I'm having my other wisdom tooth out. I had this one taken out a few months ago. This one's coming out today because it's impacted, and it's going to keep me from eating too much at Thanksgiving, which I tend to do. And then I feel bad all the way through New Year's because it's dark early, it's cold, it's gray. We don't necessarily have consistent snow yet. And I tend to eat a lot more, especially at night, because the nights are much longer this time of year. So Thanksgiving has been a downward spiral for me. So not being able to eat so much because I'm going to have an open wound in there is a good thing. I came into the studio pretty early this morning, but ended up sitting here in the educational bubble, watching the sunrise and listening to Writing for Busy Readers, which is finally giving me some information that I can use, talking about being concise and using formatting in a way that highlights what it is you want your readers to truly get out of your message. They're not going to get everything, but with formatting, whether it be bold, italic, bullet points, etc., you increase the likelihood that they actually pay attention to certain aspects of what you have written. Anyway, there's some interesting things in this book, and I am taking some notes now, but the first hour or so was just a waste for a busy listener. I head upstairs now, do some editing, do some writing, do some elliptical, maybe some polling machine, and then I'm going to the oral surgeon to have another wisdom tooth out. Joy. Heading into the oral surgeon's office, but I just discovered that it's only a consult. My surgery is November 30th, so I'm off the hook for a few more weeks, which is good because I want to get some work done in the hole today. Just pulled into the mill and had a hard time getting around this car, which is about 15 feet away from where it should be parked. I don't get it. Why would you park a car like that? There's a mama sleeping in my work clothes. What are you doing? They're covered in dirt. I'm stopping in at the studio before heading off to Albany, New York this morning to get some items at Home Depot and also to get my family a turkey for Thanksgiving. I love it. Anyway, I am using a different car today, and when I reached down to grab my studio keys, I realized that they're not here. And I felt this, just complete deflation. Like, what do? Do I just go to Albany without getting the items that I need at the studio? I was ready to do that. It's like, wait a minute, you can't go to Albany without the items in the studio. You have to go home. So I could feel my identity, the me embedded in a narrative, the me embedded in time. I could feel its frustration. I could feel it just wanting to tell a story about how frustrating this is. Then I stopped. I took a breath and said, it's just a step. Let's close the door. Let's turn the audiobook back on. Let's drive home. Let's get the keys. Let's drive back. It's okay. They're just steps. They're just steps. We're good. All right, here we go. Door's about to close. My entertainment for the educational bubble today is Why Argument Matters by Lee Siegel. And he's making a distinction between a quarrel, a dispute, a debate, and an argument. And he's using the original sense of the word argument, not a fight, but simply a discussion where you defend your position and you let someone else know why this matters to you and what facts are there to support your beliefs. Anyway, as I'm listening, I'm thinking about an interaction I had with my family yesterday. It was an argument of sorts, but it was also a bit of a quarrel. And a quarrel is a discussion in which two identities are involved. So it's not so much about the facts. It's not so much about something being important outside of an individual context. It's that I want something and you're going to give it to me. My sister is having some major issues with her plumbing and she can't use her sink at this moment. So my dad asked me if I could take some time to go over there yesterday and work on it. And I didn't have the time. My day went from 8 a.m. until midnight last night. I did not take a break. I was just go, go, go all day. And I don't mind that. I like being busy, but my family has no idea what I do. They don't interact with my life other than to have family dinners on occasion and to watch me work on projects on their house. But other than that, I'm an opaque object. So when it came to the request, there was a bit of a quarrel because I'm an identity as far as my family is concerned. That's how they relate to me because that's how they relate to themselves. Most people experience themselves as an identity and they expect you to also be an identity and they hold you accountable to that, to your story, to your history, to your reputation, etc. But they don't know my actual, real, lived life outside of the story that they have about me. So because I disappear every day and they don't see what I'm doing, they don't put a lot of value into what I'm doing because it doesn't make sense because they don't know what it is. They don't know how hard I work. So when I said, no, I can't, I don't have time, there was an attempt to convince me and to shame me, like, come on, your sister needs help. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that need help and I'm trying to help them today and I'm already booked. My helping is maxed out today. Let's try for tomorrow. But here's what you and she and other people need to do in advance of me helping tomorrow, which is now today. You need to set these things up so that when I get there, I can work quickly and efficiently. That way I can find the time. But even so, today, I really don't have the time. But again, my family doesn't get that, so I had to push some people in my schedule so that I could do it today. But it's interesting how when people make requests, they make them as an identity to an identity without any real true understanding of the nature of the person's existence and calendar when they make that request. And this is pretty common. And that's one of the reasons we have such a difficult time politically, that people can't look at the facts, they look at identities instead. And this is why I spend so much time researching identity, talking about identity, sharing my learning and thoughts about identity, because it's a problematic tool much of the time. Okay, enough of that. I'm off to do some work because I just used some time. Getting back to the studio pretty late tonight. The trip to Albany took a lot longer than expected. Finally did find the cinder blocks I needed, but I had to go to 2 Home Depots and a Lowe's to get enough. Most people just don't have them right now. And Trader Joe's no longer carries their tofurkey knockoff, and I couldn't find a regular tofurkey anywhere else. So my family is going to be without a vegan turkey-ish thingy this Thanksgiving. Anyway, I'm going to hop on the elliptical. Not sure if I'm going to watch a race or a movie. Races are nice because I don't have to think. I can just go along with the athletes and get in their flow, and I don't think. When I watch a movie, I'm thinking, I'm imagining, I'm empathetically engaged. And sometimes that's fun, but sometimes the dialogue or tension or stress becomes uncomfortable, and then I want to get off the machine. But with a race, there's no stress. I'm just watching bodies move, and I like that. Noticing my throat is a little hoarse at the moment. I have to be careful with that. And I might also hop on the polling machine for a bit. I didn't roller ski today because I was in Albany. So here we go. It's going to be a late night. This morning in the educational bubble, I'm listening to Thich Nhat Hanh's book, No Mud, No Lotus. And I like Thich Nhat Hanh. I have enjoyed his books over the years. I've gotten so much value from engaging with his content, but this one, so far, not so great. Yesterday, I finished Why Argument Matters, and that was pretty good. A lot of useful information about conversation and argument. Anyway, I'm gonna listen for a little bit more, then head upstairs, get an elliptical session in. Big hours this week, a couple 4-hour days back to back, so it's gonna be probably close to 23 to 24 hours this week, which is a lot, and I'm feeling it, but this is what I gotta do. I gotta put in the hours in November and December and then back off in January, so that I can fly in February. So the beam that was tying the eastern side of the house together, east and south corner, is gone. It completely rotted away. So I have built this to install in the place of a single beam. Now I gotta go put it under there. So once again, the kitties are using my hole as a litter box. So I've gotta dig out the poop before I begin work each day. So much fun. Thank you, kitties. Welcome to my office for the day. The job at the moment is to install the support that I built over here, and then to build a concrete tower underneath it out of blocks to temporarily support it so I can remove this dirt here and then build an actual concrete support for the corner of the house. But the house is resting on just a tiny, tiny piece of this thing, which has tilted. So if I remove this now, the end of the house collapses. So I had to put the supports in under the house, about 4 feet away from the edge to get it temporarily supported. And then I can take the dirt away on the edge. And that'll be the final aspect of this job. But then I will have a giant hole under the house that I can eventually turn into a cellar. But for this winter, I want to shore up this outside wall. So we're not far away. Quite a bit of work to go, but I never think about the big project. I just think about the step that I'm taking right here. That way I never feel like I'm going into a hole. You can see where the beam ends, and it's actually broken. The board that you're looking at there is actually the deck. That's not attached to the house. That's a floating deck. So the beam supporting the house is gone, and you can see the floorboards rotting away here. So I'm going to have to put a new floor in as well, but that's not going to happen immediately. And then here you can see the house barely resting on that pipe. And luckily that floorboard didn't rot through yet. So it's amazing that this is still standing.
And I've been digging a hole here, which I have to level. This is where the concrete blocks are going to go to build the support. I've already made one support over here, which is going to a beam that I installed. I've got to put a bunch more of those beams in and more towers like this. It is a phenomenal core and shoulder workout getting these guys in here. So that's my Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to log 30 minutes of this on Strava, even though I'll be in here for a few hours doing some pretty hard labor on hands and knees with ridiculous core activation. But 30 minutes is good. All right, see you later. So I filled the hole with paver base, which is a sand with a little bit of gravel and some concrete mix in it. Leveled it by slamming these thin blocks, just kept slamming into the paver base at different angles until it was level. And now I'm putting in the cinder blocks to reach an eventual beam that will tie into the supports that I put in earlier. And then this beam, which is sitting on this support right now, I'm going to marry it to another beam, which will then sit on top of this support here. Concrete pillar number 2 is in. Now tomorrow I will extend this beam, marry it to another beam, which will rest on top of here, so that we can start jacking everything up. And I played a fun game today, getting these under there. Those blocks weigh about 30 to 40 pounds a piece, and there's 9 levels high, which means 18 blocks. And I have them stacked pretty far away, so it was a great arm, back, and core workout to carry them over here and then down into the hole. But then I thought, I'm going to get them in there in one motion without using my hands for support. So my hands are going to hold the block in front of me while I get into a squat and then shimmy my way under the beams right here and stack them over there without grabbing onto something with my arms. And I did it with every block, and it was phenomenal stabilization strength to do that. So it's a good workout today. And I got another pillar in. The house is not going to collapse now. I just realized something very important. You don't want to miss this. You got to hit record before you start talking. I just talked for 5 minutes and realized that I wasn't recording. Anyway, we're at the end of another week, and we're almost done with November, which blows my mind. I can't believe how quickly it's going. I'm going to be on snow soon here. And this was a pretty big training week total volume. I'm close to 23 hours again. Last week was a little over 21, so I'm over 3 hours a day for this week, every day. And decent strength training, which I'll show you in a second, but I'm sore from Saturday's ski erg test. But I'm pretty pumped because I hit 800 hours earlier today for the year. So I'm easily going to be over 900 hours again for the 3rd year in a row. And then once December is over, I'm going to pull way back with the volume, up the intensity, and get ready for Finland in February. All right, show you what I got here. Monday did some easy knees to bar and some push-ups. I'm still feeling the ski erg test and the hard pulling session I did on Saturday, so I'm going to be gentle with that. On Tuesday, I tried something new, single arm cable tricep extensions with a pretty heavy weight. That was actually really difficult, and I love it. I'm going to be doing a lot more of that, and I'll show you what that looks like maybe next week. Some pretty easy neutral pull-ups, squats on my tiptoes, just 1 set, squats, single leg, 5. Didn't want to push it, just getting myself in the habit of doing a little leg movement. Wednesday, okay pulling session, lats and arms, still feeling it from the ski erg test. On Thursday, I did 2 sets of tiptoe squats. I did some lunge squats, 2 sets, and then I got on a box and did some more. But my hip flexors hurt a little bit. Did some easy dips, comfortable pulling session, some knees to bars, and some high chin-ups. That is so exciting. It was just an experiment. I wanted to see if I could do a high chin-up, which is basically where you pull your hands to your waist. So you're not just getting your chin above the bar, you're way above the bar. with hands down at your waist. And I actually did 2 sets of 3. So super exciting. I'll show you those next week. I'll do some more. On Friday, neutral pull-ups with a 38-pound belt hanging from my waist, and then a couple sets without. Haven't really bounced back from the ski erg test. I'm surprised how much that really took out of me. Then I did some more single arm cable tries. Love it. And then a pretty hard pull. Since I did the ski erg and the hard sessions after that last Saturday, I wanted to continue with some more intense polling, and that was a beast. Took yesterday off. And then today I just did 30 minutes on the polling machine at the easiest weight, but with a much higher tempo. I was watching a ski race and kept up with the tempo that they were skiing at. So that was actually a pretty solid effort. My goal for this coming week is more volume. It'd be great if I could get up to 25 hours for the week. Hopefully a lot more roller skiing. I didn't do as much as I wanted this week. So I'm going to see if I can get myself out there on a more regular basis. The project at home is really taking a lot of my time, and I'm writing like a madman of late. So I'm spending a lot of time over at the desk, standing up and sitting down and working on my writing, and that's keeping me indoors a bit more than I would like, but I'm having a really good time writing, coming up with some fun stuff. Anyway, I am also going to try to do something racy next week, whether I put myself in a time trial or I find a 5K road race. I want to bring some running into the mix next week, but something that gets me to have a heart rate in the 160s for, 15 minutes to half hour. So if I don't enter a race, I'll see what I can do, putting myself through some kind of threshold test. All right, I will see you in the next one.